If intelligence is supposed to protect us, then why do some of the smartest people make the most disastrous mistakes? Think about it. The financial genius who loses everything. The political mastermind who underestimates his enemies. The scientist who blinds himself to the simplest truths. Time and again, history shows us that intelligence is no shield against failure. In fact, sometimes it's the very cause. But why?
If you're tired of being blinded by lies and want more truth like this, hit subscribe. Join the few who dare to see reality for what it is before it's too late. This is not just a personal flaw. It's a universal paradox that has haunted civilizations, destroyed empires, and humbled the greatest minds. To understand it, we must dig into something deeper than IQ, deeper than raw intellect. We must go where Nietzsche himself pointed, into the shadow of human psychology, where brilliance collides with hidden weakness. And here's the unsettling truth. Smart people fail because their intelligence tricks them. It convinces them they are immune to error, when in reality they are slaves to the same drives, fears, and desires as everyone else. Their failure is not accidental, it is structural, built into the very way their minds operate. Let's begin with the central question. What is the hidden flaw that makes intelligence collapse into self-destruction? Nietzsche offers us the first clue through his concept of ressentiment, the toxic brew of envy, insecurity, and moral inversion that festers when power is denied or repressed. Smart people are especially vulnerable to this. Why? Because their intellect becomes their weapon. Instead of confronting life directly, they rationalize, excuse, and twist reality into shapes that protect their ego. They become prisoners of their own cleverness. Imagine a man wronged by others. The ordinary person might lash out, fight, or accept defeat. But the clever man? He intellectualizes. He cloaks his resentment in moral superiority. I didn't fight back because I'm above them. I'm better than that. This creates a hidden poison. What looks like wisdom is often cowardice dressed in philosophical clothing. Over time, the smart man believes his own illusion. But life is not fooled. Reality punishes him for refusing to act. This is why you'll see intelligent people rationalize staying in toxic relationships, manipulative jobs, or corrupt systems. They tell themselves stories to justify inaction because their cleverness makes them too good at lying to themselves. And this is only the beginning. The flaw goes deeper. Nietzsche warned of another trap, the fear of responsibility. Intelligence often gives people a terrifying clarity about the consequences of action. They see too many angles, too many risks. And so, instead of acting, they hesitate, they wait, they overthink. While the bold fool charges forward and wins, the clever genius drowns in endless calculations. Thus, the first failure of the smart. They see too much and act too little. They rationalize too deeply and live too shallowly. They mistake cleverness for strength and end up crushed by the weight of their own illusions. But this is only one layer of the flaw. To uncover the full truth, we must move from the individual to the collective, from the personal failures of clever men to the societal failures that repeat across history. And there, the consequences of this flaw are far more devastating.
We have seen how intelligence sabotages individuals through rationalization, hesitation, and the poison of ressentiment. But the flaw does not stop there. When multiplied across entire societies, it becomes catastrophic. Here is the central paradox. The smarter a society becomes, the more vulnerable it is to deception, manipulation, and blind obedience. How can this be? Nietzsche offers the key through his idea of master-slave morality. In his view, there are two ways humans create values. The strong, decisive, life-affirming type, the master, defines good as power, vitality, courage. The weaker, resentful type, the slave, defines good as meekness, humility, obedience. Over time, the second morality overtakes the first because it flatters the masses and disguises weakness as virtue. Now here is the disturbing part. Smart people, those trained in logic, language, and intellectual frameworks, are often the first to be captured by slave morality. Why? Because their brilliance makes them vulnerable to abstraction. They become obsessed with concepts, systems, and ideals. They trade the raw, dangerous pulse of life for elegant theories that sound true but are disconnected from reality. This is why history is littered with genius leaders and philosophers whose ideas justified tyranny, cruelty, or collapse. The smarter the system, the easier it becomes to rationalize the irrational. Smart people create beautiful cages and then lock themselves inside. Consider the bureaucrat who designs complex rules to ensure fairness, only to build a machine that crushes human spirit. Consider the economist whose brilliant models ignore human greed and cause financial ruin. Consider the political strategist whose clever manipulations spark wars that consume millions. These are not accidents. They are the inevitable outcome of intelligence without wisdom. Nietzsche would say, the flaw is not knowledge itself, it is the lack of will to power. When intelligence becomes detached from strength, courage, and responsibility, it turns parasitic. It feeds on itself, circling endlessly, while real power passes to those bold enough to act. This explains why fools often rise to positions of dominance, while geniuses remain trapped in failure. The fool, though blind to complexity, acts with confidence. The genius, though clear-sighted, acts with hesitation. Society mistakes noise for strength and silence for weakness. And so the intelligent man is ignored while the reckless leader is followed. But here is the darker truth. Smart people often admire corrupt leaders precisely because those leaders embody what they themselves lack: boldness, decisiveness, unapologetic will. Deep down, the intellectual envies the brute. He despises him outwardly, calls him barbaric, uncivilized, crude, but secretly he recognizes the raw power that his own cleverness cannot replicate. This is why history's most intelligent societies have often fallen under the sway of charismatic tyrants. The people knew the tyrant was dangerous. The intellectuals knew his arguments were flawed, but both admired his force of will. And this is the second layer of the flaw. Intelligence without courage collapses into servitude. Nietzsche warned that those who cannot command themselves will always end up commanded by others. Smart people may dominate in debate, in theory, in words, but in the battlefield of life, hesitation is fatal. Their brilliance becomes irrelevant when facing raw, decisive will. This is why civilizations full of cleverness still fall into cycles of blind obedience, corruption, and collapse. Intelligence builds the walls. Power decides who owns the fortress. But we are still not at the deepest level of the flaw. To reach it, we must go beneath morality and power into the psychology of fear, the ultimate root that chains the intelligent.
We've exposed two layers of the flaw. Intelligence turns inward, poisoning itself with rationalizations and hesitation. Intelligence surrenders outward, admiring bold leaders who embody the will it lacks. But the deepest flaw lies even further down, in the realm of fear. Nietzsche understood this better than most. Beneath all rationalization, beneath all hesitation, beneath all admiration of tyrants lies a single force, the fear of freedom. Think about it. To be free means to stand alone, to take full responsibility for your choices, to have no excuses, no safety nets, no one to blame. Most people, no matter how intelligent, cannot bear this weight. Freedom terrifies them, responsibility crushes them, and so they unconsciously seek escape. Some escape into systems and ideologies, clinging to political doctrines or moral codes that tell them what to do. Others escape into relationships, surrendering their autonomy for comfort and belonging. Still others escape into endless analysis, convincing themselves that thinking about action is the same as acting. The tragedy is that the smarter a person is, the more elaborate their escape becomes. Their intelligence builds dazzling defenses, intricate justifications, even entire worldviews, all designed to protect them from the unbearable burden of true freedom. They tell themselves they are wise, rational, cautious. In reality, they are afraid. Nietzsche saw this fear everywhere. He called it ressentiment morality, the revolt of the weak against the strong, the worship of obedience over power, safety over freedom. Intelligent people, more than anyone else, get trapped here because their minds are capable of infinite excuses. They can explain away their fear until it no longer looks like fear at all. And this is the final, hidden flaw. Smart people fail because they use their intelligence to protect themselves from responsibility. It is not stupidity that destroys them. It is brilliance without courage, knowledge without action, freedom without acceptance. This is why the greatest failures in history are not the fools, but the intellectuals. They saw the dangers coming, but rationalized themselves into paralysis. They understood power, but surrendered it to those willing to wield it. They were clever enough to recognize truth, but too fearful to live it. The societal consequences are devastating. When the intelligent retreat, the reckless rise. When thinkers hesitate, manipulators advance. When freedom is feared, tyranny is embraced. This is why humanity keeps repeating the same cycle. Civilizations full of knowledge collapsing into chaos as the masses follow leaders who promise certainty over freedom. So, what is the takeaway? It is simple but brutal. Intelligence will not save you. If anything, it may destroy you. Unless you anchor it with courage, responsibility, and will to power, your cleverness will become your prison. Nietzsche challenges us with a terrifying truth. To be truly free, you must accept the weight of your choices. No excuses, no hiding behind clever words, no waiting for others to lead.
The hidden flaw that makes smart people fail is not their lack of knowledge. It is their refusal to bear the burden of freedom. And so the question returns to you, the listener. Will your intelligence protect you or betray you?